still believes the American dream. To his last breath, he'll always be a soldier.
Heard on great radio stations all across America. It's the National Defense with Randy Miller and Jerry Newberry.
The National Defense is made possible by Ford, Go Further, by the Home Depot, more saving, more doing, by ADT Security, more than just a line in the sand, by VSP. For more information on how VSP can help you with your corrective vision needs, visit their website at VSP.com. By Morgan Stanley. Discover how they can help you reach your long-term financial goals at morganstanley.com. By the Wounded Warrior Project, serving those who sacrificed for over 15 years. Find them online at woundedwarriorproject.org. By WD-40 Company. Wherever there's a job to be done, WD-40 brand offers solutions with WD-40 multi-use product and WD-40 specialist products to help you live life hands-on. And by Farmers Insurance. At Farmers, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Find an agent at farmers.com.
Hey, this is the National Defense, Randy Miller and Jerry Newberry. And Jerry, as always, our dedication.
Hey, this show's for you, the men and women serving in our military. It's for the millions of veterans out there, and it's for all their families. We're here for you. We love you. God bless you.
Hey, listen, we got a brand new partner on the program.
This is very cool. This is very cool.
And it's something that, a lot of times if we have a new sponsor, a new program, or whatever, we have to tell you about them and exactly what it is and what they do. And this
you have to wake me up and shake me a couple times. Yeah.
This one, oh,
this is great.
WD-40.
I keep a can in my car all the time.
WD-40 is our brand new partner. And, in terms of the military, if you're a veteran and you don't have a can of WD-40,
right?
I don't understand you.
And, Randy, if you have an RV, you better have a can of WD-40.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Exactly. Well, everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
WD-40.
And, it's got so many hacks.
Yeah.
Around the house, right? Everywhere.
WD-40 has been a part of everybody's life for a long time, and they're doing something special every single year at the SEMA show. I want to get into that with Aaron Vaccar, the Vaccar Company. Aaron, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. Nobody appreciates WD-40 like you do.
Oh, that's true. Just from a personal car guy to, working in our shop daily, kind of like you guys already know, you just got to have a can of WD-40 laying around for anything. Right. And that is very true in the garage.
And it's funny, Jerry, WD-40 is like Kleenex in terms of product because you don't even know what it is. You just say, where's my WD-40?
Yeah.
That's what you call it.
If you got a bolt that's rusted up,
right,
spray it on there.
Yeah.
If your dog's barking too loud,
it's not. No. Anyway, hey, Aaron, let's talk about this SEMA show because this is something that I did not know anything about, and it's pretty fascinating. And WD-40 is a part of this every year, and it's what did you build now? You built a boosted Bronco, right?
Yes, that's what we're calling it, and it has a reasoning behind the name. So, when WD-40 was looking to do like an off-road type of vehicle to get attention at the SEMA show, it was our idea actually to say, hey, let's do the Bronco. These are, getting a rise in popularity. You're starting to see them pop up. So we're like, okay, a Bronco. Let's do a Bronco. That'll be cool. That's a hot word right now. And then you also have, for keeping it in the Ford family, Ford Motor Company has their EcoBoost engines out. And they've got one that they put in an F-150, the twin turbo, almost 400 horsepower. So,
man,
it just kind of clicked.
The gearheads right now are going crazy. The gearheads are going nuts.
I'm reading this stuff and I'm thinking, wow,
this is so cool.
Does it fly?
So you get almost. You got an EcoBoost engine in there. What else?
Well, that's definitely the highlight thing. So then, since it's a 1966 Bronco, that's the first year that Ford made the Bronco.
Oh,
so that's
I didn't
kind
know
of cool.
that.
Now we have this modern engine. Yeah, that was the first year. So, and we actually didn't plan on that. The specimen we found just happened to be a 66, and that is the first year. So that was kind of cool to start with the first one. It's the oldest one you can get. So since we're putting this modern engine in it, we thought, okay, well, we're not going to keep this thing looking completely factory. Like, let's, because there's nice examples of vehicles out there that are like a restoration. And we thought for this one, and, you're at the biggest, aftermarket automotive event in the world. So, we got it first. Let's call it the Boosted Bronco. That sounds cool, but also let's spice it up. So, it's going to be in the WD-40 booth. So we gave it a WD-40 color scheme. We did a matte blue with gloss yellow accents.
That's cool.
We put in a modern kind of leather interior. We did odometer gauges in there that all light up digitally with blue. So we did a lot of stuff to kind of modernize it a little bit. I mean, not to look too cheesy. We kept it very appropriate for an older Bronco, but we kind of brought it into this century. So there's a lot of modernized things on it that would make it an enjoyable car to take out right now.
So I can't even imagine how much WD-40 you needed to get this thing to where
66, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
So you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it was the perfect car to utilize WD-40 products on. And kind of like you guys were saying when, you just grab that and you throw it on rusted bolts and you say, you don't even know what's in it. You just know to grab, reach
just get my WD-40.
What I even learned, what's funny is I'm a car guy. I mean, we're in the garages every day working at our shop. And I even learned a little bit about all the different specialist lines of products that WD-40 has out. I just thought, the yellow and blue can. But there's a lot of different versions of that can.
There is?
They have
I didn't know that either.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. You've got to go on their website and just look at the spread. So one that I thought was cool is they have a spray and stay gel lubricant. So, let's say you're underneath the car and you don't want to spray something and have it come right back in your face. Spray and stay gel actually is used to lubricate things, but so that it doesn't run all over the place. I didn't even know that was a thing they had.
And it's WD-40 in a gel form, so it's just as effective.
Yeah, it's a gel lubricant.
Cool.
But it's not going to drip down or run all over the place. So I thought, wow, I didn't even know that was something they offered. Then from adding grease to the vehicle, they have different types of grease, which we use. Then they also have industrial strength cleaner and degreaser. So we actually use quite a bit of their degreaser. So, before you can even break off these rusted bolts in the engine bay and on the chassis, the thing's covered in, caked up grease and dirt, things over time. And it doesn't have to be car stuff, but in this case, we degrease that thing using their specialist line of degreaser. Then we break out, the stuff to break down the rust. So it was kind of like there's a couple different cans you can have in your arsenal when you're, if it's at your house or on a car. I mean, they've got quite a catalog that's worth taking a look at. And that was kind of why we wanted to go with a Bronco, something that's has because it's a cult classic vehicle, and you've got this product that's a historical cult classic product, and you bring the two together, and that's why it was a good fit to do that vehicle with that brand. And when we called it Boosted Bronco, I think it was just the right words too, because and I'm not just tooting our own horn. I mean, there was a lot of sponsors and team members involved working at the shop, and WD-40's help. But this car made quite a wave at SEMA too.
Man.
So did you turn any wrenches working on the Bronco?
He's a man.
I do turn some wrenches out there, but honestly, I'm kind of like the idea guy. I get on the computer, I put together the partnerships, I find who are we going to work with for gauges, what company are we going to work with for tires, and I kind of bring everyone together because this is a team effort. You got WD-40, you got me kind of at the helm, over the project, but then I have a shop. There's we got a small couple-member team at our shop, and then you got these great supporting sponsors that donate product to help make this thing happen. So it's Jerry, a big group effort.
They got hand-built 20-inch Detroit steel wheels on this thing. We're talking to Aaron Vaccar, the Vaccar company for WD-40. Where can people see a great picture of this boosted Bronco?
Well, you can actually, if you go to WD-40.com/SEMA, that's SEMA, you can actually read a list of, first of all, you can read a little bio of the car and the purpose. You can see a couple of the sponsors, and then you can even follow along the build pictures, which were from last year. But there'll be some links and things you can look at to see this boosted Bronco on there.
Cool.
How long did it take to rebuild this thing?
Well, here's the crazy thing, and if there's any car guys listening that know about SEMA, SEMA is like, I don't even know how to explain the hype that goes around a SEMA build, because a lot of times it comes down to the wire. We really started this thing, probably 3 months out from the show. And this is something that my shop, we would tell any customer, give us 6 months to a year.
Right.
But, we put that's where it comes down to, a really good group effort, a good teamwork to get it done. And then, of course, there's time afterwards to tweak things and do that kind of thing, because ultimately this is going to go to auction to benefit Child Help and the SEMA Memorial Scholarship. So, after SEMA, we did do a lot of detail work and go back in and fine-tune things. But really, we knocked this thing out in just about a little less than 3 months to get it to to SEMA. And if you go to the website that I mentioned and you look at the before pictures, it's amazing what the car looked like when we got it.
Wow.
There was no motor hooked up or anything. It was just a Bronco that was sitting out, in a field kind of thing. And, we had to transform it.
Wow, that's tremendous. So you mentioned you auctioned the car, and money goes for charity. Is that for scholarships?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So the SEMA Memorial Scholarship, what's neat about that one is that helps provide scholarships to people that want to maybe start a career in the automotive industry. And, there's a lot of different ways you can look at that, from marketing to, turning wrenches. There's a lot of things you can do with that. So that's what that does. And then you also have Child Help, which is for the prevention of child abuse. So there's a lot of good things going on with the benefit of when this vehicle actually gets sold.
Good cause.
So, Aaron, did you guys auction this off already?
No, there's no date yet. It's in the future coming up, though.
So Jerry,
it's going to be a Barrett Jackson auction vehicle.
That's the big one. The Barrett Jackson.
Oh yeah, that's about as big as it gets.
Oh yeah,
gotcha.
Well, and over the years, WD-40 has raised more than $800,000 for the charities.
Wow, that's a lot of cash.
I started the company back in 2007, transitioning just from it being a hobby, and we got into doing marketing and automotive builds. We kind of do both. We started off in Ohio, and then we ended up down in Florida. So now we're down in Orlando, Florida.
Well, it sounds like they got the right guy, and you got the right company, Aaron Vaccar, of the Vaccar Company. Hey, man, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it, and thanks to WD-40. We're going to get a lot more stories as we go along here with our partnership and find out what all WD-40 is about, and they're about a lot. So, Aaron, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back with the National Defense right after this word from Farmers Insurance. When you're dealing with life's ups and downs, it helps to know the ins and outs of insurance. Farmers Insurance has been sharing practical insurance knowledge for more than 89 years. At Farmers, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Find an agent at farmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller, and time now for another Morgan Stanley Money Brief. And we have back with us Morgan Stanley advisor Dan Daglio. Dan, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right, Randy. Thanks for having me back.
Hey, last time we were talking about stocks and things to think about when investing in them. What are we going to talk about today, Dan?
Well, this week I wanted to shift to another common type of investment that your listeners may have heard of, bonds.
Oh, good. Let's start by describing what a bond is.
All right, to get technical, a bond is a debt obligation. It's an interest-bearing security that obligates the issuer to pay the bondholder interest, typically at a set amount at periodic intervals, and to ultimately repay that principal amount of the bond at maturity.
Okay, so maybe you could explain that again in English this time.
Right. Okay, so one way to think of a bond is an IOU. Basically, as a bondholder, you've lent your money to a borrower in exchange for interest payments in the expectation of the return of the money you lent at a stated future date. So it's like you're extending a loan to somebody, but in this case, that someone is not an individual, but a corporation or a government or municipality. And instead of the borrower paying you back the loan on a monthly basis, they pay you interest payments on a set frequency until the loan ends, at which time they repay you the money they borrowed.
Okay, that makes more sense. And Dan, so if you buy a bond, you get interest on your money, and in the end, you get all your principal back, right?
It's close to true, but not always totally correct. Well, one thing to keep in mind is that a bond will pay its stated principal back upon maturity or potentially earlier if it's called, but the amount of money you invest in the bond may be slightly more or less than the amount depending on the price of the bond upon purchase. See, bonds aren't always bought at par, or said another way, they aren't always bought at a price that is the same as the money that will be returned when the bond matures. Bonds can be bought at, discounts or premiums, and while the interest rate on most bonds is fixed, the market price of a security fluctuates with the market. And there also exists a possibility that an issuer might be unable to pay interest or its principal on a timely basis due to either credit or default risk.
So, Dan, what do you mean when you say you can buy a bond at a discount or a premium?
Well, I'll try to give you an example. Say you're interested in a particular bond with a principal amount of $1,000. Depending on the interest rate environments, are rates increasing or decreasing, and what's happening in the overall markets, are they moving up or down? There may be a lot of demand for that bond, which pushes the price higher than $1,000. So you can either buy a bond, depending on the market price, at a premium, slightly more than $1,000, or the same thing is true in reverse. When there's less demand for the bond, you may be able to buy it at a discount, i.e. less than $1,000, and still get $1,000 back upon maturity.
Gotcha. Well, discounts sound good to me, and I'm sure there's more to it than that, but I want to go back to something else you mentioned, bond calls. How does that work?
Well, some bonds have calls built into them. In simple terms, a call allows the issuer to pay back the principal earlier in full or partial than the stated maturity of the bond. If you own a bond that is called, you basically get back principal earlier from the issuer, but unfortunately you no longer get the ongoing interest payment from the bonds. The market value of a bond may fluctuate, and proceeds from sales prior to maturity may be more or less than the amount originally invested, or the maturity value due to the changes in market conditions or changes in the credit quality of the issuer.
Well, okay, let's continue the discussion next week for more on investing in bonds. Hey, Dan, thank you so much. This is great stuff. We'll be back here next week with a brand new Money Brief from Morgan Stanley right here on the National Defense. Welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller and Jerry Newberry. Jerry, this is exciting. The NFL Players Association. I don't know how much you know about those guys.
We're
going to find out a lot about them.
Yeah, I know enough to know that they're not afraid to stand up for the players.
Yep.
And that's all I need to know.
Yep. DeMaurice Smith is the executive director of the NFL Players Association, joins us right now. D. Smith, how are you?
I am fantastic. Standing outside on a gorgeous day in Boston. What could beat that?
Hey, listen, you've had a pretty storied career already, haven't you? You've done a lot in your life and held some pretty strong positions. How does this position compare to what you've done in the past?
Well, I mean, it's it's obviously a little different, but it's also been 10 years, so I think I can safely say I've taken the training wheels off.
Yeah.
It's a great job, and first and foremost, we pride ourselves on being a hardcore labor union that stands up for its workers. Our workers just happen to be 2,000 NFL players, who play not only the greatest game in the world, but, are really involved in one of the biggest businesses in the world. Well, and fighting for those guys, I'll tell you what, it reminds me, a little bit about, what a number of your listeners do each and every day. Our job is to wake up every morning and protect them, do our best to accomplish our mission. And we don't really make apologies for having our guys back. And that right. We take a lot of pride in it.
Yeah, and the other thing is we need to get this out of the way just right off the top. This show is based in Kansas City, so the Chiefs are the best team in professional football. Let's go ahead and just take that right off the table.
You know what? I had that on my card. I'm sorry I didn't lead off with that.
That's right.
If you're ever in KC, you better remember that.
I'm sure he remembers it when he's in KC.
Yeah. So the association and the players, there's been a lot of controversy. And we might as well talk about it.
Yep.
Sure.
The league itself, it's not just the last couple years, but there's been, a lot of back and forth, a lot of controversy. Yep. But unfortunately, a game Yeah, and I'm going to editorialize a little bit, if I may.
Sure.
A game that has been enjoyed by millions and millions of people around the world. Forever.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you've got someone trying to not only diminish the sport, but individual players.
Demonize the players.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
100%. And look, for us, I love our guys. I say this over and over again. I love football. I just have a job because I love our guys more. And so I understand when people try to use something that people love and try to turn it into a tool to divide people. I get it. But at the end of the day, my dad, as he will tell you, is still in the Marine Corps, even though he's 88 years old.
Yep. I understand.
When it comes to this issue of the anthem and certainly the way in which peaceful protest has played such an important role, not only in American history, but if you start looking at subgroups of Americans, whether it's women or African Americans or any group that has ever felt aggrieved, peaceful protest has served as a catalyst for making our country better, virtually the entire history of America.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I understand that it makes people passionate and people are free to have their opinion. But what makes America strong, and to borrow a line from where I am right now, what made the Patriots decide to throw the tea over the ships during the Boston Tea Party and really give a genesis to what our country became? That was a protest. And so I understand that people are passionate about it, but I think the beauty is that in America, you can be passionate about something and nonetheless be assured that no one is going to step on your throat in an attempt to end your voice.
Yeah, and anyone who tries to stifle free speech,
right?
I mean, that shouldn't occur.
Here's the thing I think that is getting lost in all of this, and you're absolutely right. We're talking to DeMaurice Smith, the executive director of the NFL Players Association. Yeah, everybody's got strong passions. So do the players.
Yeah,
100%.
they have the right.
Happened? I mean, the players also are individuals.
That's right.
They're citizens of this country, and they have their own passions and beliefs and thoughts and feelings. And for somebody to try to take that away, I just don't understand. The other side of that is the fact that these players, and I've known, just being in the media in Kansas City and Atlanta and some other places, I've been fortunate to know some of these players, and every single player that I've been associated with has so many great things about them that are never found out by the general public.
Right.
And one of those things is that every single player, I don't know if it's every player, but seems to be, they either have a foundation or a charity. They do something in the community. The other night when the Chiefs played, there was a great profile about tight end Travis Kelce and his foundation and how many kids he helped. How come we never see that? Every once in a while we see it, but that's another side of those players, right?
100%. And look, even in your town, Kansas City, the team rep there has a foundation that provides dental care to hundreds of kids in the Kansas City area every year. And I was, pleased enough and honored enough to tour that care that he was providing to kids while we were out there for the team meeting. But you just picked off two guys out of Kansas City, and both of you know that is replicated thousands of times all over our country.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I understand the political ends that people would love to accomplish. It's just that I firmly believe that when it comes to this country, I honestly believe this, that it is a loud, vocal, angry few who do their best to drown out what's good, what's honorable, what's decent, and what's American about virtually everybody else.
Yeah. Randy and I were talking earlier, and I pointed out something to him, that these people with the biggest mouths to make the most noise.
Yeah.
Forget most of these players. First of all, are college graduates.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they're
Yeah.
educated.
Yeah.
Right.
It ain't easy to get where they got.
No. No.
What are the odds making in a professional sport to start with, let alone football?
The odds are nearly zero, and the only thing I get it. You know, we grow up watching a sport that we love, and for virtually, you know, every person who wants to connect with football, the only connection they have with football is something that looks like that they did when they were in high school.
Right.
That's not this, and,
Right.
It's just not. It's just not the same thing. But love the players for what they can do on the field, and love them for the teams they represent and how good you feel on Sunday. But never forget the fact that is someone's son, and that's someone's husband, and that's somebody's father, and that's somebody's brother. And when you talk about quote unquote them, talk about them in the same way that you would talk about somebody in your family, because they belong to someone else's family.
You know, and DeMaurice, you bring up a great point about, and it's the same thing that just sickens me and makes me crazy about how people talk about veterans. Veterans are them to a lot of people.
Right.
You know,
right.
they're that group of people that do that.
Them.
Right. Yeah. Or there's an association, or the VFW, or the American Legion, or that's what they believe. No, it's an organization comprised of individuals that have, again, their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own passions, that kind of thing. And it was amazing to me, and it's always amazing to me when somebody says, you know, when all this started with the NFL, and somebody, you know, says, well, I'm not going to watch a game anymore. Wait a minute. Wasn't that the game that you loved 2 months ago?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, that's the thing. Yeah. It's like somebody going to the movie, and I hear this before, you know, I can't go watch that guy in a movie because I don't like his politics. What?
Well,
he's acting.
But you know what? I got to believe there's a lot of people talking trash about how they're not watching any games.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, they're quietly watching the games.
Right.
Well, and I always come back to, because I will tell you, it's easily 90-10. The percentage of people that I meet, and I travel a lot. I flew out of Washington today, and literally as I was walking to another gate, I hear an announcement, Mr. Smith, come to gate 27. And I turn around, my gate's 31. I turn around and I see a guy that I always see, and he came up to me and he said, I just want you to know, I don't know how many times you've heard this, but as a guy who served, I can tell you, for what those players are doing, that's why I put the uniform on every day.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that 90% of the people I've met have been like that.
And I'm going to double down on that because I served, and I fought for a reason. And it was so people had the right to stand up, and express themselves.
Yeah, and here's the thing that we're trying to do, and DeMaurice, I know you know about this, involved with this. What we want to do, and what we're trying to work toward with the NFL Players Association, we want to bring players on a regular basis. We want to let people hear from them, let them hear the person behind,
to know the man.
Behind the jersey, and really kind of find out about these guys. And I think that's the best way, in my opinion, that people can relate to them as individuals.
100%, and I will make a promise to you that we're going to get that done.
Yeah,
because
that's great.
I think that not only is that important for just people to learn just how good of guys we have, but I think it's critically important for there to be dialogue, just conversation.
Yeah.
And for the people who don't want to watch football, I respect your opinion.
Sure.
And if you don't want to do it, guess what? What's the greatest country on the planet where you can express that opinion of what you don't want to do?
Right. Right. That's exactly right.
You know, through the years, Randy and I have interviewed, you name it.
Yeah.
Generals, presidential candidates,
presidents.
You know, we've taken the show in the combat zones. But I got to tell you something. This is something we really want to do.
Absolutely.
And we would be highly honored to be able to show the world what these men are made out of.
All except Louis Aguiar. Louis Aguiar, that's the only... You hate to single a guy out, but all except for Louis, he just can't put a sentence together. So that's the only... No, Louis.
You have to have some line. You have to have some.
Louis is a buddy of mine. He's a great guy. Hey,
well, look, I think it would be a great thing to do, not only for the players, not only for the Players Association, but what I said to the guy, who said that's why I put the uniform on. I mean, to no small extent, we're talking about what America stands for.
Yeah.
And I think to the extent that your listeners can learn, firsthand from guys in the league about, how they're looking at the world and how they want to make their communities better. You, me, all of us have that obligation. And the fact that there are people out there who actually care about our country, we want to make sure that we foster that, not hinder that.
And what was the number that I heard? How many veteran players do you have? There was I want to say it was like 150, 170.
Nearly 200 players have some connection.
Yeah, have some
direct level connection.
Yeah, nobody knows that.
Law enforcement. I know. Well,
it's amazing.
And the reality is, for the people who want to divide us, they don't want to know that.
DeMaurice Smith, Executive Director, NFL Players Association. Thank you so much. I apologize for Jerry. He's a hothead. He shouldn't be on a show. Thank you so much for the time, and hopefully we can talk to you soon.
I look forward to it, and I'll make sure that happens.
Great. Thank you so much, sir.
Take care.
We'll be right back with the National Defense right after this word from Farmers Insurance. When you're dealing with life's ups and downs, it helps to know the ins and outs of insurance. Farmers Insurance has been sharing practical insurance knowledge for more than 89 years. At Farmers, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Find an agent at farmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Hey, welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller. It's time for another episode of Eye Insights with VSP Vision. And today joining us is Dr. James Winnick. Dr. Winnick, how are you?
I'm great.
And today we're going to talk about, this is odd to me, cholesterol and your eyes. September is National Cholesterol Education Month, so it's a good time to learn about the dangers of having high cholesterol and taking steps to detect it. And this is surprising. More than 102 million Americans have total cholesterol levels above healthy levels. But now, let me ask you about those levels first, because through the years, those levels have changed, haven't they?
Yeah, they've changed all of the parameters around not only cholesterol, but diabetes and blood pressure, vascular disease in general. I think they've just gotten smarter about how those conditions affect us over the long term, and they've made a lot of the recommendations stricter or lower to try to keep us healthier.
Yeah, and when I was growing up as a kid and young adult, I never heard the term pre-diabetic, and I seem to hear that from a lot of people all over the place now. Again,
they're trying to, I think a lot of it has to do with just public awareness, because these conditions don't have symptoms until you really start getting advanced into the disease. So trying to get people more aware that this is something that happens to us, and it's unfortunately on the rise, to get them in to see their doctors, including their eye doctors.
Yeah. Well, and eye doctors, as we've talked about a lot on this program with you guys over the past few weeks, you can detect so much with your vision providers now. But, for the people that don't know, what exactly is cholesterol?
So cholesterol is actually something that our body needs. It's a waxy, fat-like substance that travels through our blood. But our bodies really produce enough of it on their own. The problem is, especially with our modern diets, we get a lot of extra cholesterol through the foods we eat.
Sure.
And that can create problems when that starts to then build up in our arteries. And those deposits in our arteries then narrow the flow of the blood, and they put us at a higher risk for heart disease and strokes.
So when you go to see your eye doctor, are there some signs that the doctor can see about cholesterol?
So the hallmark for cholesterol is going to your general doctor and getting your blood work done.
Sure.
And that shouldn't That should always be the priority. But if somebody's not seeing their doctor, which is more common than we want it to be, the higher degrees of cholesterol can be seen in your eyes. We can get different deposits either around the eyelid, on the corneas, on the front of the eye. We can start to see some white rings appearing. And then when we look into your eye, either with a dilated exam or photography, we're actually looking at the blood vessels. So we can, in advanced cases, see those cholesterol clots in the blood vessels.
Just another reason to get to your vision provider. And speaking of that, you guys have some coverage that listeners can look forward to coming soon. Can you talk about this exciting news for VSP?
Yeah, Randy, this is great news. VSP is currently a vision carrier for hundreds of thousands of patients through the Federal Dental and Vision Insurance Program, which most people know as the FedVIP program. They're now going to be offering vision care for military families and retirees, and you're going to be able to enroll in vision care coverage during the open season, which is November 12th through December 10th of 2018. And that'll give you and your family coverage beginning in January of 2019. And you can get more information about that if you visit choosevsp.com.
Oh, that's great. ChooseVSP.com. Dr. Winning, thank you for the time. We'll be back here next week with a brand new edition of Eye Insights right here on the National Defense.